welcome back to our digital marketing stage for more live sessions with highly experienced speakers that are willing to share their wisdom with us. I would like to take a second to give special thanks to ING Bank Romania, our main event partner, and to TikTok, our stage partner, so thank you. In this chaotic global landscape this year, we are even more likely than ever to get hooked on different tips and tricks and start implementing them right away, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but Tara Hunt, our world-famous next speaker, is here to remind us the importance of research and insights-driven strategies. Because, as she says, a strategy without insights is like throwing darts in the dark. I just love this. So Tara is the co-founder of Flywheel and has over 20 years of experience in market research and strategy on both the client and the adjacent side. She wrote one of the first books on how the social web is changing business. She was named one of the 2013's Entrepreneurial Women to Watch by Entrepreneur magazine and is one of the most influential women in technology in Fast Company. And just a few spectacular numbers about Tara. She has built an engaged and enthusiastic business audience of over 350,000 followers. She is a LinkedIn influencer followed by over 220,000 people. Her SlideShare presentations have been viewed over 2 million times, which is a lot. And she's in the top 5% of Twitter users worldwide with over 50,000 followers. So that's really impressive. It's my honor and a pleasure to introduce to you Tara Hunt.
Thank you so much for introducing with that wonderful introduction, although I have to admit it is the bio that I sent you. So
Pretty much.
I can't be too humble about this. Yeah, and thank you for bringing up that quote. As you were saying, I am a huge proponent of research. I have been from early in my career, and I always love this quote by Peter Drucker. So speaking of quotes, the aim of marketing is to know and understand the customer so well that the product or service fits them and sells itself. And that at its essence is what the whole research and insights is about. So it's important for any marketer to get really good at researching because it will make you a better marketer. And how it will do this is, number one, you'll make more relevant content that attracts the right audience. Number two, you'll understand who and what influences your audience. Number three, you'll get more efficient with your marketing spend because, well, I would say probably most of you don't have endless budgets. You'll nail your value proposition and messaging if you understand what your audience is looking for and what drives them. You'll create a blue ocean strategy that sets you apart from your competition if you know exactly what they're doing, who they're talking to, how they're talking to. You'll figure out how to get in there. And then you'll make products that appeal more to your audience. You'll get better at product design. And here's one of my favorite stories of all time that I love to tell is years and years ago, Ernest Dichter, who is known as the father of motivational research. He was a market researcher back in the 1950s, 40s, probably even, I think he started. He was hired by the Betty Crocker company, and they were wondering, well, why is our cake mix, which now we see on the shelves everywhere around the world all the time, why is our cake mix just like not working? I mean, we did test groups early on, and we heard from people that, it would just make life so easy. Well, what he found out in the market research is, yeah, people wanted this product, but they felt, especially the women, the housewives of that era, because it was their job to make delicious food, make delicious cakes. They felt like they were cheating too much by just adding water to this cake mix. The research turned up that, they didn't feel like they were really baking. So he came back and said to Betty Crocker, just add one fresh egg to the mix, and let's see how this is. And sure enough, well, we know how this went because cake mixes are very popular these days and are available everywhere. So, that's what you're going to get from talking to your customers. Now, there are different dimensions of market research that are out there that you will want to look into. There's number one, and this is where I always start, is the audience, is your customers, your current, your future, and other stakeholders. So if you have multi-audiences, vendors, employees, culture, the underlying trends in that influence that audience, competitive research. So who are you competing with for attention? This doesn't just mean it's your direct competitors that you're selling against. There's people competing for your attention. One of my favorite stories that I love to tell is that there was this huge software company who, at the end of the day, they had created this amazing piece of software to help keep track of employee benefits, et cetera, et cetera. And they found out who their biggest competition was. It was a spreadsheet, a good old spreadsheet. So it's not that they're really competing against like another software company that's offering HR stuff. They were competing against good old fashioned Excel. And then what's happening in the world. And you know, that this year is probably the biggest thing that we've learned is don't ignore what's happening in the world as far as trends go. But today we're just really going to focus in on the audience and the cultural side of this equation, because I don't have long enough to go into the competitive and what's happening in the world. That we'll save for another day. So there are steps to gathering insights, and you can do this, by the way. I'm going to show you in this presentation how you can do this mostly for free. You do not need to hire big research firms or spend a lot of money on survey tools. I do have them in this presentation, but it's not. But there are tons and tons of ways to gather data that are not expensive at all. So number one, I always start with, starting to pull information, right? And this is where you're going to have this ocean of information, basically. And I like to think of the metaphor as like you're scuba diving, you're just looking over the surface, and as soon as you see something interesting, you're snorkeling, and then you do a scuba dive down. So you're pulling information from every source possible to give you like a holistic view of your customers or potential customers. Then you need to narrow the audience. So you might have a broad understanding of who your audience, but now you need to figure out who your customers are, not just when they're buying from you, but what do you know about them? Who are the ideal ones? Who are those that most beneficial audience to look at? And then now you have narrowed, you could actually start to broaden out, and you're going to find some unique identifiers from your best customers to find more people like them. And then you spend, and this is the digital anthropology side of it. This is where you do the best research. You spend significant time in their world, listening, reading, watching, and understanding them through observation and participation. So it's not just about looking at the data, it's also about gathering. So let's go through each of these steps. So number one, let's start with gathering data. And like I said, there are so many great sources. There are existing customer data. If you already have customer records, CRM, Google Analytics, that sort of thing. You could test ads. A lot of people use a little bit of ad budget on various different platforms to target different audiences with different messages and different imagery and collect data from that. Industry statistics and studies, there's tons and tons of free sources out there, but there's a few paid ones too that aren't too crazy. Interviews and surveys, so there's tons of survey tools, sampling, focus groups, Q&A, A/B testing, that sort of thing. And then my favorite, absolute favorite, is social listening and participatory observation. This is where you get into that ethnography. There's social intelligence tools and social listening that's ongoing. So within your ethnographic research toolbox, we'll dive into, you have all of these things. And we're going to dive into the platform analytics, social intelligence tools, search, surveys, interviews, consumer reports, and social listening. So because I don't have a lot of time, let's just jump right in. So number one, platform analytics. On your various social media platforms, there are some really juicy analytics, especially if you have a business account on any of these platforms. Now, not all of them, you don't need to have a lot of followers on all of them to get these analytics back. For instance, Facebook Audience Insights, which a lot of people don't miss, and partially it's not your fault, it's because Facebook buries it deep in the bowels of their business manager. I think they don't want people to use the tool this way. I do, though. And it has this amazing, it's like an audience builder tool. But what I use it for is for learning a little bit more about different audiences. And I'm going to show you some examples right away. Pinterest, if you have a business account and you do a little bit of that ad spending, they have a really fantastic audience insights board that really dives into what people are interested in, where they're at, their age range, all that stuff. And then YouTube, if you have a YouTube channel and you do, once again, if you don't have current followers, you can pay and do a little bit of advertising. You can see who's engaging with your videos and why. And there's a lot of different platforms actually that have taken away a lot of these analytics. I used to talk about Twitter had a great analytics, and that, you know, everybody's been changing, but these ones are still there for now, and you get some really good data. So here's a example from the Facebook Audience Insights Manager. Say you're Toyota, or you say that you're starting a new car company, or you're from Ford or BMW, and you want to appeal to people who buy Toyota. So maybe you have a new hybrid car in the U.S. So you can look up people who are interested in Toyota in this business manager, and in their affinity section, they have the other pages that these audiences are really into. So you can see Toyota, of course, but they're also into Chevrolet. So they're fine with shifting brands. They're really into outdoorsy things. Oh, interesting. They're pretty down to earth, Budweiser beer, home improvement, that sort of thing. So you can get a bit of a sense of what else they're into. So you can think about partnerships. You can think about how you frame somebody in your car. Maybe they're like going to go hiking or fishing or something like that. But to show you a contrast, maybe Audi, you have a fancier car. Well, you're looking at Audi in the U.S. Well, this group is much more into the high-end cars like Land Rover, and they're very into cars in general. And then they like traveling, but UFC shopping, but they're also into fitness. Under Armour and Foot Locker are fitness brands. So maybe you want to portray in your ad or in your content somebody that is much more sporty and polished. So this gives you a little bit of a sense of who your audience is, and this tool is completely free. Of course, there's platform analytics like Google Analytics, and Google Analytics can be very powerful. Now, they just rolled out Google Analytics 4, and I have yet to see if they still have these in there, but the current Google Analytics has this. So if you have a website, you have Google Analytics, go into the section that is all about audience affinities. And in the audience affinities, there's these three categories. Number one, there's affinity categories, which are lifestyles similar to TV audiences. So technophiles, sports fans, cooking enthusiasts, that's the first one. In-market segments. So these are categories of purchases that people have expressed interest in. This is huge. This is my favorite audience, because if they hit your site and they're shopping for the thing that you're selling, you're doing well. And then other categories, which provides very specific view of users, and it's growing all the time. It's the one that sort of Google's building on. So if people are foodies, for instance, in the affinity category, it dives deeper, and now they're foodies into East Asian food in this other category. So in this case, people visiting this website are shopping for business software, investment services. Some of them are looking for new jobs. They are looking for marketing services, enterprise software. They look like they're looking for a new mobile phone. So let's hope that this site has some sort of content to give them that is in that area. Number two is social intelligence tools. Clear.com, Klear.com. It does cost money, $249 a month. I think they have lighter weight versions, but they do have a few, from what I understand, they do have a free trial, or they have a few free searches, maybe a freemium service. What's really great about this tool, and I've used it for many years, is you can find influencers here. You can find influencers in topics. So you put in your topic, maybe your location, on all these different platforms: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, blogging, and then it'll give you back a whole list of people who are influential in that area. And then you could also look at social profiles and see what kind of content works for them, and get some insight into those brands. So if you do know your competitors. A newer one on the market, which I absolutely love, they have free search, 10 free searches a month, but after that they start at $50 a month, which is pretty reasonable, I think, for what they do. It's so powerful, and I absolutely love it. So you can search on SparkToro. So you'll see some of my searches coming up. They talk about something, they describe themselves as something, they follow a Twitter account, they frequently visit a website, or they frequently use a hashtag. And then you can see the podcasts they listen to, the websites they frequent, the social accounts they follow, hashtags they use, their location, all sorts of really rich information. It is so cool. And you can also see how basically how tight they are. And there's this behavior similarity that they have, diverse and homogenous. And I'm always looking for a homogenous audience, an audience that has a cohesion. They like the same things, because then you know that they probably, a lot of them know each other and follow each other and follow the same thing. So it's easier to reach them. And of course, into search, Google. And of course, there's other search engines, but Google has way more beyond their search engine. There's all sorts of fancy ways to search, as this infographic shows, but there's also a ton of different Google search tools that will bring up whole new information, like Google Scholar for research, Google News for setting up news alerts in and around your subject area. Image search brings up a whole new level, like this infographic. Public data search is killer awesome. That's where you're going to find a lot of that free public data, like statistics and business information and such. Then, of course, there's Google Analytics, which I've already talked about. Google Trends, which is completely people always forget about how amazing Google Trends are for looking for, rises and falls in different search terms. Think with Google that's their research branch, and they always have a lot of cool studies on people's behaviors and patterns. They have a shopping insights tool that shows you what people shop for, or the most popular products are in each country. So if you're thinking about, you want to see where the trends are going in your country or other countries, and then if you really want to move into another market, Market Finder will actually suggest to you where your product in your product category would be most successful. Keyword Planner, if you set up a Google AdWords account, you can go into Keyword Planner and Keyword Planner will give you all sorts of suggestions. They have a consumer barometer that also says how people are feeling, where they're buying more, that sort of thing around the world. And then YouTube Trends, people always forget. A lot of people go to YouTube to search for solutions. So YouTube Trends are a good place to start as well. So Google doesn't just have their regular search; they have all these other search tools as well. I also like to go beyond the Keyword Planner tool and go into some of these other keyword search tools, like keywordtool.io is really fantastic. What you could do is, you go in and you search all across Google, YouTube, Bing, Amazon, eBay, places like Instagram, Twitter. You can go and see basically the most similar keywords and phrases, questions, hashtags that people are using in an area. So if you know a few of the ways in which your audience is searching, you can get a richer perspective of that. Ubersuggest also has an amazing content ideas tool. So they'll show you the content that is appealing to somebody that is searching for that particular term. I totally love it. And you can also do a lot of competitive analysis in Ubersuggest, which I'm not going into here, but it's really powerful. Ubersuggest and keywordtool.io both have free versions. Of course, you can upgrade for not very much money to unlock things like search volume. And then SEMrush, which also has some free tools, including this topic research. Although if you want to really get into it, you're going to have to pay for the next level. SEMrush has this, I love this topic research. So you put in what you're looking for, where you're looking for it, and then it shows you in the different subject areas, and then of course the top content under each of those. So it's similar to Ubersuggest, but it gets even more in depth where it takes and breaks it down into these topic areas. And you can also see some competitive stuff in here too. Like the competitive stuff in SEMrush just makes me so happy because you could actually see what your competitors are what they're, if you pay for it, what they're paying for with search words, what their ads are, how they're performing, that sort of thing. So SEMrush is one of my main tools that I pay for. And then let's move on to surveys. There are a whole bunch of things to consider when you're making surveys. So sampling is all about asking the right people. So do you have a good sample? Structure, are you asking the right questions when it comes to surveys? Scale, are you gathering enough data? Do you require a panel? And if you require a panel, a search panel of people, a survey panel of people is basically, you can reach out to all these different companies and they have gathered panels of people that would be interested, that could answer questions. Maybe they are in your target market. And there's some of them, they're all paid for, but you know, they're not that crazy expensive. You can buy panels of people to answer survey questions for you through all of these, you know, for you know, a good decent panel of people for under $1,000, and the kind of information, and you got to make sure you structure your survey well, is going to be really valuable. I really like also if you have a landing page that you've created, or you have copywriting that you just need to polish up and you're like, oh, does this make sense? You know, if you've ever asked that question, there, this copytesting.com is really amazing. It's pretty new. I think it's like $200 or $250, and you get a panel of something like 50 people in your target market to look at your web page and then give you feedback on all the different sections. Say if they, you know, give, you know, real feedback. It's not just like a survey with yes and no's. It's like actual qualitative feedback, which is pretty cool. And then if you don't need panels, of course, there's a ton of other survey tools out there. You could install Hotjar on your site. You can put a type form in your site. You can send out Survey Monkeys, all these different things. So all of these different survey tools allow you to get feedback from people into your product and what they're seeing. And then number 5 is interviews. This amazing book by Gift Constable is available. I think, you know, it may be free, but if it's not very expensive. It's a really simple read. He teaches you how to properly structure and run effective customer interviews. He breaks down how to find the right people to interview, how to plan for a productive session, and he gives you like concrete tactics, tools, and question samples, which is amazing. I love this book. I recommend it to all of our clients and anybody who asks. So definitely write this down. Consumer reports, open data, and more. So like Pew Internet, Nielsen, Forrester, like they have paid for reports, but a lot of them have also breakdowns and like some sort of high level, inexpensive reports where you can get industry information and like trend information, consumer report information, which is really cool. And we've gathered at Flywheel, we have a huge knowledge center with hundreds of resources. Well, in our research page, I've gathered like every single, well, a lot of hundreds of open data platforms and places where you can get different statistics on pretty much every industry. Then there's social listening, and this is, this is my favorite, and people just forget this. They think social media is for you to go and like post and like push out your message. No, social media really is for listening. That's what it's here for. So there's oodles of way. You follow hashtags, create lists of people, follow your customers and potential customers, see what they're doing day to day, create alerts for keywords. You subscribe to newsletters and your audience would read through it. And this should be an ongoing habit where you actually get, listening on a regular basis. There's, here's some Instagram hashtags. If you find one hashtag, you can find it'll show you a whole bunch of other hashtags that you can follow. Twitter trends, search hashtags, right, that you can follow. You can make lists of people. You can go into an advanced search and say only in this time range or any of these words. Reddit, a lot of people forget Reddit is a really great place to find subreddits for people who are really, really focused in on certain areas of learning and knowledge, science and art and film and such. Then you need to narrow your audience. This is where you figure out who your customers are really, and really just narrow this down. So the importance of narrowing your audience is because, well, you'll want to know where exactly to find them, and so this will help you understand where they hang out. Because once again, you don't have a ton of time or money usually to reach them, and you want to know, you want them to be interested in you. So this will help you understand what they're interested in, and then you want to turn them into your biggest fans. So if you know more about them, like specifically, the more you're going to appeal to them. So most people go too broad, college educated, these demographics. That's way too broad. It doesn't really say much about who your audience is. Some people get a little better. They think about professions, right? They think, okay, well, I'm trying to hit independent filmmakers and writers in this case. But that's still a little bit too broad. You can't assume that everybody has the same taste. The best way to think about it is through that jobs to be done framework you might have heard of before. And that's like, what is this group of people like looking for? What is their motivation? What are their jobs done? And if you haven't heard of jobs to be done, the Clayton Christensen and crew talks about this as customers don't buy products and services. They hire various solutions at various times to get a wide array of jobs done. So when this happens, I want this to come to me so that I can have this expected outcome is basically a jobs to be done. And to give you an example for cinephiles, who I have in some of these cinephiles and people who love the cinema, when I seek entertainment, I want to be introduced to great movies that make me think by up and coming directors, so I can feel the joy of discovering a hidden gem, basically, that nobody else has seen before. They want to be first. So now that you've like figured out and you started to narrow to that jobs to be done, you can start to find others like them. So these are using unique identifiers. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, sorry, am I all?
1 second. Yeah, we have about 1 minute left. So maybe if you just want to wrap it up. It's sure. Been amazing, and I'm sure people will really want to watch this again. It's been so much useful information here. So sure. I can pop through this to the who, where, what. You're going to find this out. And in those answers, so once you pull from all those various different platforms, in those answers, you'll find your strategy. So I think strategy is just like a game of Clue. You put it together just like Colonel Mustard in the conservatory with a candlestick, who your audience is, where you'll find them, and how your tactics and messaging that you'll reach them with. And so that is your strategy, basically, in a nutshell. That's the end. Perfect. Thank you very much, Tara. That's been really, really useful. Unfortunately, we don't have time to get any questions. We'll have to wrap up. But many thanks once again. It's been absolutely brilliant to have you with us. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in a bit in the next session. Thanks again. Bye.